guys, thank you so much for joining. Welcome back to my channel if you are a returning subscriber. If you are new here, my name is Ore. I am a pharmacist and I talk all things pharmacy, relocation, and how to advance your career here on my channel. Make sure you subscribe, make sure you share with your friends and family and people who you believe this will help. Today I have the amazing Thorrun Govind here with me, and we're going to be talking all things pharmacy and law. Thorrun Govind is a pharmacist and a solicitor based in the United Kingdom. Thorrun is also the chair of the Royal Pharmaceutical Society in England at the moment, and she is also the media pharmacist. If you haven't heard of Thorrun, you definitely want to check this out and find out a little bit more about her. Stay tuned. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate you taking the time to be here. So do you want to just tell the people a little bit about yourself, who you are and what you do?
Okay, so yeah, hi, I'm Thorrun Govind. I'm a pharmacist in England. I am a community pharmacist. I'm also a healthcare lawyer, and I'm chair of the Royal Pharmaceutical Society in England at the moment. I do a lot of media work as well, to do with healthcare and pharmacy. So that pretty much sums me up.
I've been telling everyone wanted to have you on for such a long time, just because there's so many like phenomenal things that I see you doing, especially in the media. But I think one of the first things that people will probably be super I guess astonished about is the fact that you are a lawyer but also a pharmacist. And just kind of walk us through how you got into that. Like, which one did you choose first? Was there like kind of a, you wanted to do both and then you just kind of decided I'll do this one first? How did you kind of get into that?
So I've always been interested in pharmacy, and I have always for years known that we weren't getting the recognition that we needed. So I always wanted to be a pharmacist, but there's always been this like media sort of debating side of me, which has always been interested in law. So actually, when I was thinking about applying for pharmacy at university, there was a part of me which was thinking about applying for law, but really my heart was in the pharmacy element of it, always has been. And I went to studied at King's College London and qualified. And then there was just this interest which wasn't really going away. So I started studying for a graduate diploma in law, and then you have to do a legal practice course. And then after that, you have to spend some time in a law firm. But when I started doing the graduate diploma in law, I didn't even know how you qualified as a lawyer. I was just going along, enjoying myself, learning about the law. And all these people I was like who were in my class were talking about becoming a lawyer, and if you have to get a training contract and the pathway to law, and I didn't know anything about that. It was all a bit over my head, because obviously I was still practicing, practicing as a pharmacist and doing that alongside the studying. And then I just was really interested, and some of the work that I do is supporting healthcare professionals. In fact, that's the work that I do. So really, it marries in really well. And obviously I've got the understanding of the medical records, the medications, how they work. So actually, it's really all quite ties in with my week. I'm definitely still using those pharmacy skills in a different context.
Yeah, I was going to say it's such an interesting aspect, because I remember obviously at uni we do like a module which is like pharmacy law, and I really found that super interesting. And when I kind of came across you, I was like, it must be so good to be able to like just use that knowledge and skill together. So you mentioned that you done pharmacy school and then you kind of went into, you done your postgraduate study in law. So like, were you doing that? Did you finish kind of pharmacy school completely and then go into that? Or was it kind of like at the same time? The reason I ask is because many people, I know lots of pharmacy students and pharmacists find pharmacy quite like overwhelming in terms of the study aspect, like when you're in pharmacy school. So just thinking, how did you manage like to do extra study whilst, still studying pharmacy or working as a pharmacist?
So I was working at a pharmacist as a pharmacist when I started doing the law study. But it's sort of funny because after I finished and qualified as a pharmacist, I was like, no way am I doing any studying ever again. I'm so done. But I think the pressure was off in a way, because I didn't need to do this legal element. It was just something that interested me. And I found studying pharmacy quite hard. It wasn't easy for me. I think people might think, oh, you found it really easy, but I definitely didn't. It was a challenge. And it was nice to just go into something where, I didn't need to do it. I wanted to do it. It was interesting to me. And if I'm honest, I didn't spend hours revising for law. I just did what I needed to do with the time that I had available. And I didn't put a lot of pressure on myself. And I think that's what I needed. I needed to look after myself in that way and enjoy myself a bit.
I like what you said about just doing what you needed to do with the time that you had. And I think one thing, you know, my channel kind of is there to inspire and motivate pharmacists to go for other things and not just kind of keep themselves in a box. Because I think sometimes as pharmacists, especially because we've had that very, like, for some people, horrific journey at pharmacy school, right? You don't want to do anything else that requires you to do anything. You just kind of want to make money, enjoy yourself, travel, whatever. And I think that, you know, it's important. I mean, I'm not sure what your thoughts are on this as well, but just like for pharmacists to pursue their passion, what do you think about people just like doing other things on the side that they want to do and pursuing that? Is that something that you would recommend? Is that something, obviously, I guess you would because you've done it, but like, how do you think people should basically go for that or like do things that they really want to do?
I think ultimately you can help your patients by doing those extracurricular from pharmacy elements. So, you know, for example, if you want to run, I don't know, a business, but nothing to do with healthcare, that's adding to your value to patients because you might understand some of the issues that they have in other areas. Ultimately, I think as pharmacists, we're problem solvers and our skill sets are very transferable. So I think really make the most of the opportunities. You know, I say they say you have 75 good years, so you know, make the most of them, and we spend a lot of that studying. So I almost think like you've got this amazing profession which enables you to fly a bit further, which means you can go outside your comfort zone, and the flexibility. I mean, here especially in terms of the portfolio careers, people are working in community, they're working in general practice. You know, people have varied weeks, and I love that about my role particularly. You know, I get to do different things, and that keeps me energized for those when I am in practice or doing different things.
And I think it gives you like a different, like, you know, sometimes when you're looking at the same four walls every day, Monday to Friday, you know, you can get kind of frustrated, and that's how people get bored and they get complacent and stuff. So I think, like you said, being able to vary your weeks. And I think pharmacists also remembering that you don't have to just be in community or hospital. There are so many other things. And I think that kind of brings me to my next question. So you're in the media a lot and you do a lot of great work in the media. How did that start or come about? And like, did you have connections? Like, what was your kind of like foot in the door essentially?
So no, I don't have any media connections. I'm very persistent and harass a lot
I
of
love
people,
that.
which is just probably a theme of my life. If I don't find a way one way, I'll find a way another way. I'll ask someone else. Networking is really important. So I guess from my point of view, the media work has really been about my recognition from very early on that we do amazing work, but we're very quiet about what we do. I think it's probably a natural aversion sometimes by pharmacists because we're so busy and getting on with what we're doing that we don't always tell people what we do, and then we get frustrated that they don't understand what we do. Well, we have to explain it to them and tell them about what we're doing and why what we do is important. Because we are the third largest healthcare profession. I'm in England here at the moment, and we need to make sure that people know that it's not just doctors and nurses, we're a whole team. And, you know, when we're in general practice working as GP pharmacists, we're part of that general practice team. And patients we're starting to realise here in England as well, that continuity of care doesn't mean you just see your GP all the time. It means that you see other parts of the healthcare team, but everyone's feeding in together. And that's why we're really keen to see better access for records here in England as well, because we currently in community, we don't have access to the read-write records that the GPs do. So we've got our records in community, but we need that to feed in a bit better. So I think my real plea to everyone is you're an ambassador for pharmacy. So go out there and tell everyone what you do.
It's actually our responsibility as pharmacists to actually let people know what we do, because like you, I get frustrated when people are like, oh, do you just stand in it? Like people think, what do you do in a hospital? You're a hospital pharmacist, what do? Do you just kind of like give out the medicines? I'm like, as a hospital pharmacist, I rarely actually see medication and touch medication. I'm on the wards doing clinical work, I'm working with the doctors. Like pharmacists, we form we're part of the circle of care team essentially. So like you said, if my patients come to see me and I'm concerned about something, I can feed that back to their GP and we can work together to make sure we support the patient. But I think sometimes as pharmacists, we have this thing where we're scared to show ourselves. Now, I've been thinking a lot about this because, you know, as you know, I do a lot of stuff on social media and I kind of showcase what I do. I share my journey, you know, even me coming to Canada, I talk about that and try to be as transparent as possible, but also so that other people who are not pharmacists kind of know what a pharmacist does. Now, one thing I've been thinking about, and I think it's been, you know, again, it's been in the media recently, it's been within a lot of colleges, college of pharmacies. And the thing is, there's something about being a pharmacist and being on social media or being in media in general, and how like transparent you can be about what you do. And I think sometimes people have a fear around that. I mean, it's only been in the recent years, maybe since COVID, that you see more doctors and pharmacists and stuff on social media kind of sharing their day to day. But do you think that's ever held you back? Like, have you ever sat back and thought, oh, you know, I even remember there's a chapter in the MEP. I used to be obsessed with the MEP, where it talks about social media and being a pharmacist and like how you can like handle and work, you know, being careful essentially. So I think sometimes pharmacists are maybe too careful about that. Do you think that's something that's ever held you back, or something that's maybe holding more pharmacists back from being or jumping into that area?
There's probably an element of it. I can't say personally it's ever held me back, because I think I'm always quite careful about what I post on social media, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I'm always thinking about confidentiality and marrying it up with actually that sort of duty that we have to tell people about what we do. So I think my advice, and I have had pharmacists contact me because they're worried about confidentiality aspects of what they are posting or want to post. So
Yeah.
I think there are concerns out there. It's not something that I've particularly felt myself, because I'm quite careful with how I post. But I think we need to have more of a conversation about it, perhaps, because, you know, we are also the rise of, you know, TikTok. People are getting medical information from social media, and it's not always correct. So actually, we do have an important role to play.
Yeah, I agree. Like it's you know, I've said this many times, I say it all the time. I think health organizations need to make use of social media, because the day and age that we're in, people are literally typing in like, how do I treat my depression? What meds should I take for depression? And like, I see sometimes people are like, oh yeah, I stopped taking my, you know, citalopram or whatever. And then someone else will see that on TikTok and follow that. And I think that, as you mentioned, like, it's really important to have healthcare professionals on social media, so that they can basically like give out the best and most accurate evidence-based information, and, as you said, be an ambassador for their profession. So the last aspect that I want to kind of touch on is just your role at RPS and some of the work that RPS is doing. What is RPS? How can people hear about RPS? I also want to insert here that actually, as a pharmacist that's moved from England to Canada, I really, really respect RPS so much more. I think because coming to Canada and seeing that, you know, RPS plays such a huge role in my understanding of pharmacy, and my ability to network with other pharmacists. I've been a member of RPS for quite a long time, and coming to a space where there isn't much of that happening here just makes me kind of respect RPS a lot more. So what is RPS? What do they do? And yeah, how do they represent pharmacy?
Okay, so the RPS is the Royal Pharmaceutical Society in England, and obviously we have Wales, Scotland, and England, and I am the chair in England, and then we are involved, or my section is the board in England, and we're involved with policy and advocacy in England. Above the boards is the Assembly. So the Assembly are involved with sort of the running of the RPS, the sort of more organisational factors, whereas the boards are more to do with the policy in their respective countries.
Yeah.
The president is obviously who's currently Claire Anderson. She's the president overseeing everything, and then I've got my remit within the English board. So what we have been involved with are things like workplace wellbeing. We're trying to encourage people to be thinking more about the wellbeing of pharmacists. The RPS has that amazing medicines, ethics and practice, which I also love, and was, you know, you couldn't get me away from it when I was a student, because pharmacy law was one of my favourite things favourite topics at university. So yeah, we get involved in advocacy. We do lots of work behind the scenes, which people don't always know about, because sometimes it's about that soft lobbying and speaking to members of parliament and government, but also there's the things that you actually see as well, so that, you know, we're speaking to the media. So I think people don't always know about the work of a professional body, because sometimes it's that light touch behind the scenes work which you know members are contributing to when they support us and also engage with us on social media, etc. So you've got an important role in amplifying the work of the RPS. And then we've got mentoring, which is available as well. We've got specialist groups. So really, it's sort of home for pharmacists, really. And our ability as well to support people when they're overseas like you is obviously fantastic, because it must have been hard for you to move from qualifying here to going to where you are now. And to me, if I was ever going to do that, I would want to know if there was sort of a body or an organization that I could go to for support.
That's something that should be available in every country wherever you are. I think some places are still kind of like working towards that, and that's fine. But yeah, it's really good to see RPS doing great work. And as Thorrun mentioned, obviously I'm still a member of the RPS even though I am here. So I do get those, kind of like international emails and just information. I'm able to still join events, which is really good because it helps me to kind of keep that connection that I have with England and stuff. And because I am still registered and licensed in England, it's important for me to actually be a part of RPS because I, can keep up to date with things happening in the UK. So I guess my last question would be, what would you say to pharmacists, junior pharmacists, or, students, what can you kind of like say to them to encourage them to play a better role in the profession, we call it publicly. So how can they play a better role publicly? And what would you, I know you said many things, but what would your encouragement be to them in order for them to play their role better?
Okay, so we all went into this to help patients. So ultimately, for me, it doesn't have to be a massive public role, but even on your day-to-day basis, we can all make a small difference to our patients' lives. So advocating for pharmacy in our patients' lives, explaining how we can help, and explaining that they don't actually always need to see, a doctor or another healthcare professional. And they've got this really important access point in our community. I think that comes with also, obviously, we are really busy, but helping set some of those expectations about how knowledgeable we are. And yeah, you might have to wait a few minutes, you might have to wait a little bit, but ultimately, we are so accessible that is amazing for our patients. And globally, we make such a big difference to patients' lives. So keep doing what you're doing in terms of your, helping your patients in your pharmacy. Make sure that they're telling other people about your important role too, and let's all make a wave of change together.
Thorrun Govind, thank you so much for being here. I really, really appreciate that. Last question, how can people reach you? If people want to find out who you are, ask you more questions, what are the places they can reach you at?
Okay, you can find me at LinkedIn, Thorrun Govind. Again, you can find me on Instagram at lawpharm, and you can find me on Twitter at pharmthorrun. We'll put some links below, won't we?
I will. Thank you so much for joining me, and see you soon.